What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be looking at something very different. I'm talking about a text that could possibly be the 3rd century Common Era. Um, the theme is well known, but most people don't know about this text, that this text actually exists, and it predates the more well-known text. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to look at this. All right, this is the Book of Arda V. Roth. Sorry. The Book of Arda V. Roth. You can read this at Avesta. This is a translation you could find translated by Professor Martin Wog of the University of Munich, revised from the manuscript of a Parsi priest, from the Sacred Books and Early Literature of the East, volume, Ancient Persia. This is the introduction. Look at the copyright, 1917. Listen to this introduction, guys. This is from Horn's introduction. Of its author, we know nothing except what his book tells. So that's Arda Viroth. We know nothing about him except the book, what we're about to read. He has been connected with a religious scholar, sometimes, who wrote commentaries on the Avesta during the Sasanian Empire. It's the Empire of Persia. Okay, his book narrates a vision of heaven and hell, which Viroth saw in an inspired dream or vision. Most of the brief book is given here, except where the details of hell become too bestial, too coarsely sordid for modern taste. The entire vision is truly Dantesque, and that's the well-known Dante's Inferno. But listen to what he says. And while we do not know its age, we can say confidently that it is several centuries older than the work of Dante. So profound even to this day is the Parsis' faith in the reality of Viroth's vision that when the work is read in their religious assemblies, talking about the Zoroastrians, the men weep and the women cry out in horror over its pictures of the damned. It has certainly a powerful influence in restraining the Parsis from sin. Now, he makes mention, it should be noted that hell is not an eternal punishment according to the Zoroastrian religion, but only until the renovation of the world, which is Frostgerd. Now you got some information regarding the title, the uniform title, other titles. But before I go into reading it, think about this. Here we have another person that had a dream or a vision of heaven and hell. This isn't the only one. Um, in Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People, which is a book that you can buy, it explains how the English people became Christian. There is also a vision of heaven and hell. This predates all of that. But the question is, they're different gods, different religions, and they're both having visions of heaven and hell, slightly different understandings of heaven and hell. But I find that interesting because who is giving these visions of heaven and hell? If it was one religion that's true, then only one group would have visions of heaven and hell. But if two groups that have different religions, different deities, different beliefs are getting visions of heaven and hell, could this possibly be something that isn't related to a deity at all? No, let's continue. We'll start part 1, introduction. In the name of God. So I didn't read this here. Religious disputes and the need for spiritual guidance. That's just the subheading. It says, in the name of God. They say that once upon a time the pious Zarathustra, which also made the religion which he had received current in the world. Zarathustra is also a name for Zarathustra or Zoroaster, the prophet of the Zoroastrian religion. It predates Judaism. It predates Christianity. It's where you get the ideas of punishment after death, um, and heaven. But that's not the earliest. But as far as a monotheistic, or I guess you would say, as far as that idea of heaven and hell in that sense being different places, then it's first in that. All right, so Zartoshi made the religion which he had received current in the world, and till the completion of 300 years, the religion was in purity, and men were without doubts. Yeah, the Zoroastrian religion uh, was the dominant religion of Persia for over 300 years. It wasn't until Islam conquest that it was not something you could do without the oversight, let's just say. But let's continue. He says, but afterward, the accursed evil spirit, the wicked one, in order to make men doubtful of this religion, to make men should be what's there, but you know, instigated the accursed Alexander the Roman, who was dwelling in Egypt, so that he came to the country of Iran with severe cruelty and war and devastation. So here he's blaming the purity of the religion being decimated on Alexander the Roman. I believe this is Alexander the Great. He also slew the ruler of Iran and destroyed the metropolis and empire and made them desolate. And this religion, namely all the Avesta and Zond, written upon prepared cow skins and with gold ink, was deposited in the archives. In Stakar Papakan and the hostility of the evil-destined wicked Ashamach, the evil-doer brought onward Alexander the Roman, who was dwelling in Egypt, and he burned them up. And he killed several dasturs, those are priests, and judges, and urbads, and mobads, and upholders of the religion, and the competent and wise of the country of Iran. Iran's prominent here because Zoroastrianism is from Iran. And he cast hatred and strife one with the other amongst the nobles and householders of the country of Iran, and self-destroyed. He fled to hell. And after that, there were confusion and contention among the people of the country of Iran, one with the other, until they had no lord, nor ruler, nor chieftain, nor dastur, who was acquainted with the religion, and they were doubtful in regard to God. And religions of many kinds and different fashions of belief and skepticism and various codes of law were promulgated in the world, until the time when the blessed and immortal Atoropod-e-Marspindon was born, on whose breast, in the tail, which is in the din card, melted brass was poured. Now, this is a miraculous story in a different religion about this man who basically was laid down on a bench, and they poured molten lava on his chest, and it didn't affect him. I mean, that's what it claims, and you could read that in the din card, and I will post where you could read all of this source material in the link. And much law and justice were administered according to different religions and different creeds, and the people of this religion deposited in Shaspagan were in doubt. And afterward there were other magi and dasters of the religion. Magi just means like wise one. Some people say that the magi who came to Christ in the gospel accounts of the birth of Jesus were Zoroastrians. They called all the people to the residence of the Furobag fire, and from the whole number they set apart 7 men who had not the slightest doubt of God and the religion, and whose own thoughts and words and deeds were most orderly and proper. And they were told thus, seat yourselves down and select one from among you, who is best for this duty and most innocent and respected. And afterward those 7 men sat down, and from the 7, 3 were selected, and from the 3 only one named, Virath, and some call him the Nishapurian. Then that Viraf, as he heard that decision, stood upon his feet, joined his hands on his breast, and spoke thus: If it please you, then give me not the undesired narcotic, till you cast lots for the Mazdayasnians and me. Now, the Mazdayasnians are just all those who worship Ahura Mazda as the supreme god. Ahura Mazda, supreme intellect. Um, Different translations have been used, but Mazdayasna is somebody who follows this religion, and me. And if the lot come to me, I shall go willingly to that place of the pious and the wicked, and carry this message correctly, and bring an answer truly. And afterward the lots of those Matayasnins and me were drawn, the first time with the word well thought, and the second time with the word well said, and the third time with the word well done. Each of the three lots came to Viraf. Hmm. Interesting, interesting. So, a lot of people say casting lots is divination, right? But even in the New Testament, not only did they cast lots for the clothing of Christ, the disciples casted lots as who would take the place of Judas. Um, and so you have, this which predates Dante's Inferno. We haven't gotten into that, but you see the preparation. You see how the religion kind of functions in its ritual and practice, and how they make decisions. They're making decisions by casting lots, leaving things to God, where no one makes the decision. Chance is the thing that becomes God. Hmm. Let's continue. Chapter 2, Viraf and his preparations to visit the spiritual realm. And that Viraf had 7 sisters, and all those 7 sisters were as wives of Viraf. Now, so I have heard, I don't know how accurate, it could be very accurate, but I don't know, that Zoroastrians did practice marrying their sisters, marrying their cousins. That was something that they believed had the best overall outcome for marriage. Uh, yeah, I could be wrong on that. If there are Zoroastrians who want to correct me on this, please do. I'm no scholar. I'm just reading the source material, trying to understand what exactly is being said here. Right? They had also learned the religion of heart and recited the prayers. And when they heard those tidings, then they came upon them so very grievously that they clamored and shrieked and went into the presence of the assembly of the Mazdaeosnians. And they stood up and bowed and said thus: Do not this thing, ye Mazdaeosnians, for we are 7 sisters, and he is an only brother. And we are all 7 sisters as wives of that brother, just as the door of a house in which 7 lintels were fixed, and one post below. They who shall take away that post will make those lintels fall. So for us 7 sisters is this only brother, who is our life and maintenance. Every benefit from him proceeds from God. Should you send him before his time from this realm of the living to that of the dead, you will commit an injustice on us without cause. And afterward those Mastayasnians, when they heard those words, pacified those 7 sisters, and said thus: We will deliver Viraf to you safe and sound in 7 days, and the happiness of this renown will remain with this man. Then they became satisfied. And then Viraf joined his hands on his breast before the Mastayasnians and said to them: Thus it is the custom that I should pray to the departed souls, and eat food and make a will. Afterward you will give me the wine and narcotic. The Dotsters directed thus: Act accordingly. So he seems to be preparing for looks like a visionary uh, trip, some kind of ritual practice that uses hallucinogens. Let's continue here. And afterward, those Dotsters of the religion selected in the dwelling of the spirit a place which was 30 footsteps from the good. And Viraf washed his head and body and put on new clothes. He fumigated himself with sweet scent and spread a carpet new and clean on a prepared couch. He sat down on the clean carpet of the couch and consecrated the drawn and remembered the departed souls and ate food. And then those dosters of the religion filled 3 golden cups with wine and narcotic of, oh, there we go, of Vishtasp. And they gave 1 cup over to Viraf with the word, well thought, and the 2nd cup with the word, well said, and the 3rd cup with the word, well done. And he swallowed the wine and narcotic and said, grace, whilst conscious, and slept upon the carpet. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Vishtasp does not originate with Zoroastrianism, but originates with Hinduism, if I'm not mistaken. Also, keep in mind that Zoroastrianism has had evolutionary change within the theology. So, for instance, the only things that we can trace back to Zoroaster himself are what's called the Gathas, right? The songs. That's all we can trace back from him. All the rituals, the practices, all this other stuff that we find like 300 years after him in the Sasanian period or Sasanian period and periods that are prior to that, are, I want to say, additions because they weren't written in Old Avestan. So they weren't written in the Old Avestan text. It's written in Middle Persian, right? And so we don't have anything else written in Old Avestan except that, and then it looks like a liturgy of the Zoroastrians that we have. And I will post the link so you can see this stuff on avesta.org. That's where I'm getting all this information. Okay. Those dasters of the religion and the 7 sisters were occupied 7 days and nights with the ever-burning fire and fumigations, and they recited the Avesta and Zond of the religious ritual, and recapitulated the Nasks, and chanted the Gathas, and kept watch in the dark. And those 7 sisters sat around the carpet of Viraf, and 7 days and nights the Avesta was repeated. Those 7 sisters, with all the Dasters and Urbads and Mobads of the religion of the Mastayasnians, discontinued not their protection in any manner. So they were doing this as a protection. And like you can see this in I kind of want to say like in Judaism, I believe, when a psalms are recited over the body, there's a ritual practice. Psalms are recited over the body. Some traditions say they're making their journey to afterlife or whatever, and that's a protection. So you see that this is something that goes way back, Let's go ahead and continue here. Part 2, Journey to Heaven. And the soul of Viraf went from the body to the Chinwad bridge of the Chakat-e Daitik, and came back the 7th day, and went into the body. Viraf rose up as if he arose from a pleasant sleep, thinking of Valhuman and joyful. Now, the Chinwad bridge is the bridge that takes you to paradise in Zoroastrianism. So after you die, you will go and cross the Chinwad bridge. It's either wide for you or it's narrow for you, and you're not able to cross it depending on the sins you committed in life. Thinking of Valhuman, as far as I understand it, Valhuman is good mind. And so good thoughts, having a mind that produces good and pleasant thoughts, not thoughts of death and destruction and decay. All of that stuff comes from Angra Mainyu, not from Ahura Mazda. All right, so let's continue. And those sisters with the Dosters of the religion and the Mazdayasnians, when they saw Viraf, became pleased and joyful. And they said thus, Be thou welcome, Virath, the messenger of us Mazdaeosnians, who art come from the realm of the dead to this realm of the living. Those Urbads and Dotsters of the religion bowed before Virath, and then Virath, as he saw them, came forward and bowed and said thus: For you is a blessing from Ormazd. Ormazd is also a name for Ahura Mazda, the Lord and the archangels. So in this religion, there's also archangels, which are called Amaraspondin, and a blessing from the pious Zartosht, or Zarathustra, the descendant of Spatama, and a blessing from Srosh the pious, and Adar the angel, Yazad, and the glorious religion of the Mazdaeosnians, and a blessing from the remaining pious, and a blessing from the remaining spirits of paradise, who are in happiness and repose. Okay? And afterward the Dasturs of the religion said, Thus a faithful minister art thou, Virath, who art the messenger of us Mazdaeosnians, and may thy blessing be for thee also. Whatever thou sawest, relate to us truly. Then Virath spoke thus: First, this is to be said, that to give the hungry and thirsty food is the first thing, and afterward to make inquiry of him and appoint his task. So during this time, it seems like the Mazdaeosnians really didn't understand their own religion, and they were trying to gain that back. And so they were a group, a community who kind of knew, had some fundamentals, right? But they were trying to understand how to follow it precisely. All right, we're on 18 here. Then the Dosters of the religion assented thus: Well and good, and well cooked and savory food and broth and cold water and wine were brought. They also consecrated the ceremonial cake. Okay, that's the drawn. Okay. And Virath muttered grace and ate the food, and having finished the sacred repast, he said grace, and he recounted the praises of Ormazd and the archangels, and thanks to Ordad and Amardad, the archangels, and he muttered the benedictions. So in this religion, you have grace, you have archangels, and you have benedictions. He also directed thus: Bring a writer who is wise and learned. And an accomplished writer who was learned was brought by him and sat before him. And whatsoever Virath said, he wrote correctly, clearly, and explicitly. Now keep in mind, this version does not have the very in-depth stuff, as far as I know, that is very, very bestial when it comes to hell. But we deal with what we got. Chapter 4, what the dead experience. And he ordered him to write thus: In that first night, Srosh the pious and Adar the angel came to meet me, and they bowed to me and spoke thus: Be thou welcome, Arda Virath, although thou hast come when it is not thy time. I said, I am a messenger. And then the victorious Srosh the pious and Adar the angel took hold of my hand, taking the first footstep with the good thought, and the second footstep with the good word, and the third footstep with the good deed. I came up to the Chinwad bridge, the very wide and strong, and created by Ormazd. When I came up there, I saw a soul of the departed, whilst in those first 3 nights the soul was seated on the top of the body, and uttered these words of the Gatha: Ushta amai yamai ushta kamachit. That is, well is he by whom that which is his benefit becomes the benefit of anyone else. That's very interesting. How would we interpret that? Well is he by whom that which is his benefit. Well is he by whom that which is his benefit becomes the benefit of anyone else. So if something is my benefit, it is wealth. It becomes a benefit of somebody. So like my car, if I give people rides, I would assume, or like my money, if I use that to benefit somebody else. Hmm. Right, on 12 it says, and in those 3 nights, as much benefit and comfort and enjoyment came to it, as all the benefit which it beheld in the world, just as a man who, whilst he was in the world, was more comfortable and happy and joyful through it. In the third dawn, the soul of the pious departed in the sweet scent of trees, and he considered that scent which passed by his nose among the living, and the air of that fragrance comes from the more southern side, from the direction of God. And there stood before him his own religion and his own deeds in the graceful form of a damsel, as a beautiful appearance that is grown up in virtue, with prominent breasts, that is her breast swelled downward, which is charming to the heart and soul, whose form was brilliant, as the sight of it was the more well pleasing, the observation of it more desirable. I'm mad at that, you know what I'm saying? It's not just Islam that believes in you know, beautiful women uh, you know, symbolically representing, you know, this is his own religion and his own deeds, right? Let's keep going. It says, and the soul of the pious asked that damsel, thus, who art thou, and what person art thou? Than whom in the world of the living any damsel more elegant and of more beautiful body than thine was never seen by me? He's saying, you are so fine, I ain't seen nothing close to what you look like, right? To him replied she, who was his own religion and his own deeds. Thus I am thy actions, O youth of good thoughts, of good words, of good deeds, of good religion. It is on account of thy will and actions that I am as great and good and sweet scented and triumphant and undistressed as appears to thee. For in the world the Gathas were chanted by thee, and the good water was consecrated by thee, and the fire tended by thee. And the pious man who came from far and who was from near was honored by thee. Though I have been stout, I am made stouter through thee. And though I have been virtuous, I am made more virtuous through thee. And though I have been worthy, I am made more worthy through thee. And though I have been seated on a resplendent throne, I am seated more resplendently through thee. And though I have been exalted, I am made more exalted through thee. Through these good thoughts and good words and good deeds which thou practiced, they honored thee and the pious man after thee in that long worship and communion with Ormazd. When thou performest for Ormazd worship and proper conversation for a long time, peace be from it. Man, she's saying that I am the representation of all your good. How beautiful I am is how beautiful and attractive and adorning and resplendent your good words, your good deeds, and your good thoughts were. That's interesting. Chapter 5, the Chinwad Bridge. Afterward, the width of that Chinwad Bridge became again 9 javelin lengths. With the assistance of Srosh the Pious and Adar the Angel, I passed over easily, happily, courageously, and triumphantly on the Chinwad Bridge. I had much protection from Mur the Angel, and Roshan the Just, and Vai the Good, and the Angel Warharon the Powerful, and the Angel Ashtad, the world increasing, and the glory of the good religion of the Mazdayasnians, and the guardian angels Fravashis, of the pious, and the remaining spirits first bowed to me, Arda Viraf. I also saw, Arda Viraf, Roshan the Just, who held in his hand the yellow golden balance and weighed the pious and the wicked. Okay, so this actually, you can find this in Egyptian theology, which predates Zoroastrianism. And in that theology, obviously, you have the scale, that will determine what your experience in Duat is like. It could be punishment, it could be reward in paradise based on how you lived your life. But the thing is, in these religions, it's not based on faith or belief. It's not based on this God you believed in, that God. It's did you do good deeds? Did you have good words? And did you have good thoughts? And did you practice things to cultivate those things? Right? Because no one's perfect. We get that. But did you try to do some other stuff? You know, did you try to do good things? Like you saw somebody homeless and you were like, I don't got money now, but next time I got money, I'll get them. And then you had money, and so you gave them some money. Or you have a house, someone needs a place to stay. You have a car, someone needs to use your car. Stuff like that. You know, that's what determined your afterlife. And you can see the parallel in Zoroastrianism as well as in the Egyptian religion of it not being based on a faith or a set of doctrines or creedal statements. Interesting. All right, let's keep going. And afterwards, Shrosh the pious and Adar the angel took hold of my hand and said thus, Come on, so that we may show unto thee heaven and hell, and the splendor and glory and ease and comfort and pleasure and joy and delight and gladness and fragrance, which are the reward of the pious in heaven. We shall show thee the darkness and confinement and ingloriousness and misfortune and distress and evil and pain and sickness and dreadfulness and fearfulness and hurtfulness and stench and the punishments of hell of various kinds, which the demons and sorcerers and sinners perform. We shall show thee the place of the true and that of the false. We shall show thee the reward of the firm believers in Ormazd and the archangels and the good which is in heaven and the evil which is in hell, and the reality of God and the archangels and the non-reality of Ahriman or Angkor Mainyu and the demons, and the existence of the resurrection of the dead and the future body. See that? So the resurrection of the dead and the future body. The idea of the resurrection of the dead probably starts with Zoroastrianism, that there will be a resurrection of the dead and the future body as well. And you can find this in Christianity, the resurrection, or all of humanity. Because in the Greek myths, the Greek religions, um, someone was resurrected. That means they became divine. Wasn't that all of humanity would be resurrected in those religions or beliefs? Let's keep going here. We shall show thee the reward of the pious from Ormazd and the archangels in the midst of heaven. We shall show thee the torment and punishments of various kinds which are for the wicked in the midst of hell, from Ahriman and the molestations of the demons. Now, if you haven't watched my video on God's will is both good and evil, or schizophrenic divine principle, with those videos, we discuss basically another 9th century text or another text written in Middle Persian that you find on this same website. It's called the Shkand Gumanig Vizar, which is the doubt dispelling exposition. But in it, it's basically saying that there are two separate principles. One is all good, has no evil, no darkness, no nothing, and that's Ormazd, and the other one is Angkor Mainyu, which is basically the anti-reality, the anti of all that, but it's still a principle, so to speak, a universal or external principle or eternal principle, so to speak. And that's the only way you don't have a God who's evil. And if you want, you watch those videos, it goes into more depth. So we're on chapter 6 here. Purgatory, look at that. Hamistagan. And all of hell in Zoroastrianism is purgatory, because hell doesn't last forever in Zoroastrianism. It is not eternal torment in Zoroastrianism. I came to a place and I saw the souls of several people who remain in the same position, And I asked the victorious Sarosh the Pious and Nadar the Angel thus, who are they, and why remain they here? Sarosh the Pious and Nadar the Angel said thus, they call this place Hamistagon, the ever stationary, and these souls remain in this place till the future body, and they are the souls of those men whose good works and sin were equal. Speak out to the worlds thus, let not avarice and vexation prevent you from doing a very easy work. For everyone whose good works are three, Srosho Charanam, more than his sin, goes to heaven. They whose sin is more go to hell. They in whom both are equal remain among these, Hamistagan, till the future body. Their punishment is cold or heat from the revolution of the atmosphere, and they have no other adversity. Interesting. So, according to Hamistagan, purgatory, according to this, the punishment is extreme cold or extreme heat. Like super, super winter and super, super summer, it seems like, and they have no other adversity. So that's what they experience until Frashgerd, or the last day, the judgment, so to speak. Interesting. I'd love to hear more on this kind of thing, and like if there's sermons about this stuff, or if, how they view this. In according to this, the Parsis, probably the most dominant majority of Zoroastrian, um, take this as like real, real, not fiction. Really happened, really occurred. This is from God, you know. All right, chapter 7, the star track. And afterward I put forth the first footstep to the star track on Humat, the place where good thoughts are received with hospitality. And I saw those souls of the pious whose radiance, which ever increased, was glittering as the stars, and their throne and seat were under the radiance and splendid and full of glory. And I asked Rosh the Pious and Adar the Angel thus, which place is this, and which people are these? Srosh the Pious and Adar the Angel said thus, this place is the star track, and those are the souls who in the world offered no prayers and chanted no gathas and contracted no next of kin marriage. They have also exercised no sovereignty, no rulership, nor chieftainship. Through other good works they have become pious. So they didn't pray, they didn't recite anything. They weren't rulers or chieftains or anything like that. They exercised no sovereignty, says no and contracted no next of kin marriage. I don't even know what that means in this culture, so I'm not even going to speak on it. If anybody else knows and has more information, where I can find information on that, let me know. All right, chapter 8, the moon track. These like tracks that you can take, I'm kind of assuming. Says, when I put forth the second footstep, it was to Hukt of the moon track, the place where good words. So Hukt is good words. What was the other one? It was Humat, good thoughts. So now we're on good words. Find hospitality, and I saw a great assembly of the pious. And I asked Rosh the Pious and Adar the Angel thus, which place is this, and whose are those souls? Rosh the Pious and Adar the Angel said, thus, this place is the moon track, and these are those souls who in the world offered no prayers, and chanted no gathas, and contracted no next of kin marriages, but through other good works they have come hither, and their brightness is like unto the brightness of the moon. Really, just good works, man. Just good works, and they are in a place of brightness of the moon. All right, chapter 9, the sun track. When I put forth the third footstep on Hurvarsht, there where good deeds, Hurvarsht, are received with hospitality, there I arrived. There is the radiance which they call the highest of the highest. And I saw the pious on thrones and carpets made of gold, and they were the people whose brightness was like unto the brightness of the sun. And I asked Shrosh the Pious and Adar the Angel thus, which place is this, and who are those souls? Shrosh the Pious and Adar the Angel said thus, this is the sun track, and those are the souls who in the world exercised good sovereignty and rulership and chieftainship. Good sovereignty and rulership. Power corrupts, man, and power attracts the corruptible. So to I guess to be able to have good sovereignty and good rulership shows dignity and integrity in that person. You would think the good deeds would be the one. Well, this is good deeds, but it's not just good deeds at all. It's those who exercise good sovereignty and rulership or chieftainship. Guess the carpet's made of gold. That's pretty dope. All right, chapter 3 or part 3, heaven, chapter 10. I put forth the fourth footstep unto the radiance of Garathman, the all-glorious. And the souls of the departed came to meet us, and they asked a blessing and offered praise. And they spoke thus, how hast thou come forth, O pious one, from that perishable and very evil world? Thou hast come unto this imperishable, unmolested world. Therefore taste immortality, for here you see pleasure eternally. And after that, Adar, the angel of the fire of Ormazd, came forward, saluted me, and said thus, a fine supplier art thou, Ardaviraf, of greenwood, who art the messenger of the Mastayasnians. This is very interesting. It says, then I saluted and said, thus, thy servant, O Adar the angel, it was who in the world always put on the wood and perfume 7 years old. And you exclaim about my green wood? So I was a little confused, but I get it now. So Viraf is saying Adar the angel is the one who always put on the wood and perfumes 7 years old, or 7 year old perfume. Then Adar the angel of the fire of Ramad said thus, come on, that I may show thee the tank of water of the green wood which was put upon me. And he led me on to a place and showed the blue water of a large tank, and said, this is the water which that wood exuded, which thou puttest upon me. Now, I don't understand anything about this. If someone has more information regarding this, please let me know. Chapter 11, Gods, Angels, and Spiritual Leaders. Afterward arose Vahuman, the archangel, from a throne made of gold, and he took hold of my hand with the words, good thought, and good word, and good deed. He brought me into the midst of Ormazd, and the archangels and other holy ones, and the guardian angels of Zartosh Spatama, Kai Vishtas, Jamas, Isad Vastar, the son of Zartoshti, and other upholders and leaders of the religion, than whom I have never seen anyone more brilliant and excellent. And Vahuman said, thus, this is Ormazd, and I wished to offer worship before him. And he said to me thus, salutation to thee, Ardaviraf, thou art welcome. From that perishable world thou hast come to this pure, bright place. And he ordered Saros the pious and Adar the angel, thus, take Ardaviraf and show him the place and reward of the pious, and also the punishment of the wicked. Then Saros the pious and Adar the angel took hold of my hand, and I was led by them from place to place. I also saw the archangels, and I beheld the other angels. I also saw the guardian angels of Geomard, Zartoshti, Kai Vishtap, Vrashashtar, Jamasp, and other well-doers and leaders of the religion. Okay. Interesting. We didn't get anything about what Ormazd looks like. Chapter 12, Other Blessed Souls. I also came to a place and saw the souls of the liberal who walked adorned and were above the other souls in all splendor. And Ormazd ever exalts the souls of the liberal, who are brilliant and elevated and mighty. And I said thus, Happy art thou who art a soul of the liberal, that are thus above the other souls, and it seemed to me sublime. I also saw the souls of those who in the world chanted the gathas and used the prescribed prayers, and were steadfast in the good religion of the Mazdaeosnians, which Ormazd taught to Zartoshti. When I advanced, they were in gold embroidered and silver embroidered clothes, the most embellished of all clothing, and it seems to me very sublime. I also saw a soul of those who contract next of kin marriages, in material fashioned splendor, when the lofty splendor of its residence ever increased thereby, and it seemed to me sublime. I also saw the souls of good rulers and monarchs, who ever increased their greatness, goodness, power, and triumph thereby, when they walk in splendor in their golden trousers, and it seemed to me sublime. Their golden trousers. So I also saw the soul of the great and of truthful speakers who walked in lofty splendor with great glory, and it seemed to me sublime. Interesting. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop at chapter 15. So we'll be chapter 13 and chapter 14, and then we'll pick it up on the next video to finish it off, I think, depending on how long it is. But all right, here we go, chapter 13. I also saw the soul of those excellent thought of those women of excellent thoughts, of excellent words, of excellent deeds, and submissive to control, who consider their husbands as lords, in clothing embroidered with gold and silver and set with jewels. And I asked thus, which souls are these? And Srosh the pious and Adar the angel said thus, These are the souls of those women who in the world have honored water, and honored fire, and honored earth and trees, cattle and sheep, and all the other good creations of Ormazd, and they performed the Yazishan and drone ceremonies, and the praise and services of God, when they performed the rites and praises of the angels of the heavenly existences and the angels of the earthly existences, and they practiced acquiescence and conformity, reverence and obedience to their husbands and lords, and they were without doubts on the religion of Mazdaeosnians. They were diligent in doing of good works, and they have been abstainers from sin, and it seemed to me sublime. I also saw the souls of performers of the Yazishanan ceremony and of those who know the scriptures by heart, splendid among the lofty and exalted among the great, and it seemed to me sublime. I also saw the souls of those who solemnized the whole ritual of the religion and performed and directed the worship of God, who were seated above the other souls, and their good works stood as high as heaven, and it seemed to be sublime. I also saw the souls of warriors whose walk was in the supremest pleasure and joyfulness, and together with that of kings. And the well-made arms and equipments of those heroes were made of gold studded with jewels, well ornamented and all embroidered. And they were in wonderful trousers with much pomp and power and triumph, and it seemed to me sublime. Ooh. I also saw the souls of those who killed many noxious creatures in the world, and the prosperity of the waters and sacred fires and fires in general and trees, and the prosperity also of the earth was ever increased thereby. They were all exalted and adorned, and it seemed to me very sublime. I also saw the souls of agriculturalists in splendid place, and glorious and thick majestic clothing, as they stood and offered praise before the spirits of water and earth, trees and cattle, and they utter thanksgiving and praise and benediction. Their throne also is great, and the place they occupy is good, and it seemed to me sublime. I also saw the souls of artisans who in the world served their rulers and chieftains, as they saw on thrones which were well carpeted and great, splendid and embellished, and it seemed to me very sublime. All right, I'll stop sharing right there, guys. As you can see, we can pick apart um, his journey. Was it a just a hallucination? Dude was dead for 7 days. Is this how they communicated with God? Did this actually happen? Like, there's so many routes that we could take, but let's just take it for what it is. Let's just allow the story to be the story, and kind of think about it. Like, here you have somebody who has angels and religious figures like Zarathustra, Soros the Pious, Arda, and even Ormazd, the Supreme One himself. Um, and he's interacting with them. He's in a place that's imperishable, right? Um, and he's being guided, and all this stuff. The thing is that I read this stuff as literature, and because I can't come to a definitive conclusion that this is actually true or this is actually false without having to reject by default other ideas and views, um, that they would have to be false if this is true. That's just the law of non-contradiction. One can't be true if one is false. Um, but other than that, it's a great story so far. I really like it. It's very informative. And I'm just thinking of other things that I've heard in other religions, like the green wood thing. I only think of um, when Jesus says not to weep for him, because if they do this while the wood is green, or if they do this, if they do this while the wood is green, what will they do when the wood is was ready, or something like that? Um, the stuff about the resurrection of the body, the resurrection of the dead, the punishments, the thrones, all that kind of stuff. You see, like, for someone to have a revelation of heaven and hell. I mean, there was a book written, what, God, I don't even know, prior, uh, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe, A Divine Revelation of Hell by a lady named Mary K. Baxter, Christian. She didn't see any of these people. You know what I mean? So am I supposed to believe that her or Viroth? Who do I believe? You see what I'm saying? Like, they're all just claims until that person has that experience, you know. Um, and so that's why it's good to read a broad range of this kind of stuff. I mean, a broad range so you can kind of gain an understanding of experience. People are writing this stuff as experience, or maybe they're just writing it as a story. We don't know. We can't ask them. That's the problem. And that leaves us in this situation that we have to either accept something or reject something. But honestly, I just enjoy this stuff. I think it's very entertaining, and it helps me just see how other people thought. If anybody has any more information about the next of kin marriages and why that was an important thing, it could be a very important thing culturally. I'm not sure. I'd be very interested in learning more about that. Other than that, that is the first video of um, VRAF's vision. All right. Thank you guys for watching.